to Liz's point, at this point, now what we're trying to do is like, okay, let's just make it a goal to add 2 SKUs a quarter, to go from 25 to 27, and then to 29, and then slowly build it up over time to where it's like, if we have 100 SKUs doing 2 million in sales annually, the potential to sell that to someone is pretty sweet. We look at it as almost like owning a third house for us. We have a rental property that we rent out, but like this is definitely going to be part of our retirement.
Hi, and welcome to Your Selling Podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Kirk, aka Your Selling Guide. I'm a small town girl who took a big risk and quit a steady corporate desk job to travel the US in an RV. Along the way, I started selling on Amazon, grew a 7-figure business, visited all the lower 48 states, bought a farm, and today I am still doing what I love to do, selling on Amazon while helping other sellers do it too. Each week, I will share Amazon tips and tricks and bring in guests to share their stories, expertise, and tips on the platforms that they use. Think of this as a sit down with your Amazon bestie where you can learn, ask, start, and grow your online selling business. Welcome to Your Selling Pod. Hey crew, and welcome back. On today's podcast, I'm super excited because we have Casey and Liz Kellogg. Casey and Liz do private label on Amazon, which I know for me is the goal, and maybe it's something that you've been kicking around the idea or you want to work towards that goal. A lot of retail arbitrage sellers actually start with RA to get to know Amazon and then move into private label. Whether you're interested or you just want to hear more, get ready because this podcast is jam-packed with all of the information. Well, welcome Liz and Casey to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm super excited because when I first started selling on Amazon, my friend Damien actually told me about you guys because you were also RVers and flipping on the road. And so you are the very first Amazon sellers that I ever heard of.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah.
That's an honor because there's like so many Amazon sellers out there.
Yeah.
Right? It was just cool because you guys are the freeway flippers. And so it was like, oh, wow, there's someone else out there actually doing this too. So it's just like more encouraging that it would work. But I really am excited to have you today because we're going to be talking private label, which is, I think a lot of people's goal, but it's super intimidating. And so I'm just excited to ask you all the questions. How did you guys first get into online selling to begin with?
So that would been myself kind of starting this for us. So in my previous career, I was working as an auto adjuster for a major insurance company and was promoted to the catastrophe team, which caused me to travel a lot. So my schedule was 21 days of travel every month. So I was on the road 21 days. I'd come home 7, get to relax for a few days, and then they'd tell me where I was going to be going the following week for another 21 days. So after doing that a couple of years, it was getting pretty lonely. I was missing Liz. We didn't get to see each other much. And she was teaching at the time and had summers off. And I just started thinking, how can I get her on the road with me and she can make some money? And that way we can be together while we're doing this thing called life. And just happened to be YouTubing, how to make money online like a lot of people do, and just trying to figure out what options there were, and stumbled across a YouTube video on private labeling specifically, which I hadn't heard of. But once I was starting to understand the process, it made a lot of sense to me. One of my first jobs was at Walmart when I was a teenager. And just thinking like, to get a product that you wanted to sell on the shelf of Walmart is incredibly difficult. And Amazon made it to where we can come onto their shelf with, less difficulty, I guess. And so that's what really started it. That was 2016 is when I was first starting to look into it. And then it was 2017 is when we launched our first private label product.
Oh, that's awesome. That is interesting. I like what you said because Damien just said it last week to somebody that we were talking to, but like it's like almost impossible to come up with a product and have it in store at Walmart, but you can very easily do, well, easily, I say easily, but you
Sure.
can much more easily do it right on
Right.
Amazon. So Amazon is really making the way for tons of people, small, medium, large businesses to be able to work.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Yeah, and I mean it definitely is intimidating, which we'll get into some of the questions later, but um obviously we wish we would have went a lot more aggressive early on, because we were intimidated and scared and all of the things that people go through, especially when you're sending $10,000 wired over to a foreign country that you haven't met anybody personally. Um, but yeah, I mean, you just have to kind of just trust the process at the end of the day and just know that the manufacturers that you're working with and dealing with, they're trying to provide for their family just the same as you are, that everybody out there isn't trying to just take advantage of people. Obviously there's people that do that, which is unfortunate, and I think that kind of obviously makes people scared to jump into things like this, but yeah, we're extremely happy we did it. We wish we would have went more aggressive in the beginning, but yeah, it's been working out great.
Nice. Did you buy a course or something, or how did you first get started with it?
Yeah, so at that time, that's when the course thing was kind of becoming very popular. Um, and we did buy a course. We actually invested just under $1,000, the 997 price that everybody had, on this course that was worth $60,000 or whatever that number is. But we did a course just because at the time there wasn't near as much information or other people posting videos on YouTube. Um, and for me, I thought $1,000. If we're going to jump into this private label thing, $1,000 is worth the investment in my mind. For the community to be able to talk to other people that were actually doing it, um, and it did help. I mean, we actually met. We have friends to this day that we've met at several of the meetups from that course and that group, specifically. But now I would say a course really isn't necessary, just because again there is so much information out there on YouTube, where people kind of just share their experience and how to go through everything. Um, but yeah, we did a course, and it walked us through the steps from beginning to end. Uh, so yeah, I would say it was worth it for us at the time, but right now I don't know that I would. I would just try to get involved with a group that is also doing private label.
And also, like, I mean, a lot of your listeners, they're doing OA, 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 RA, so they're used to using Keepa and things like that. So with private label, it was Jungle Scout. That was the big software that we had to use. And really, there's just such a long process, and it's really challenging at first. And I think that's why we did end up getting the course, because there's just so many more steps. It's not like just going to Walmart, opening up your phone, scanning something, and keep it telling you, this is a good item or not, and looking at sales rank. Like, there's just so much more, I guess, it goes so much more in depth with private label. So I think a course at the time, especially because you just didn't have the videos out there, was really important. And then just having people to in a group to ask questions. But Jungle Scout has a free, you know, it's $1 million case study. It's on YouTube. So if you are interested, I mean, you don't have to pay that $1,000 for the course. You can go on their YouTube and just kind of watch from start to finish. And they do a really good job of it.
Yeah, they've done, I think they're close to like 5 or 6 of them now. I haven't looked in a little while, but they actually, on their $1 million case study, they search a product like live using their software, find the product, find the supplier, do the logo, do the trademark, do the packaging. So, it's a series of videos, but yeah, you can sit down and kind of dive into those. Anybody that asks us about private label, that we know personally, I direct them to the Jungle Scout $1 million case studies. Like, watch these from start to finish. You're pretty much going to know everything you need to, and then it's just applying what you learned. And there's a couple other, like Helium 10 is another big competitor of Jungle Scout. But like those two softwares are probably, I would say, number one and two out there for Amazon private label.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to ask you if you still thought a course was necessary, which you've already answered all that. But that's really cool that Jungle Scout kind of has it all broken out for you right there. So I will definitely be going to watch that after because that is something I want to get into.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, I mean, ourselves included, hesitate to kind of share what we source. You know, obviously it can bring in a lot of competition, or you can just have somebody get frustrated with you and leave a negative review on your stuff. Like, so a lot of people won't share their specific products. Well, Jungle Scout, their primary business is software. That it's not, physical products. So they're very willing to share, like, look, this is what we sourced, this is how much we're making. And they're silly products, just like there's so many things out there you can sell. I think their one example was bamboo skewers that were like 3 feet long for like camping and cooking. So like they just saw that there was hot dog sticks that were not very long, so some people were leaving reviews like, oh, my hand was getting too hot or this or that. And so they teach you during that case study, like as you're reviewing products, look at the negative reviews. Why are people unhappy? And can you make it better? Can you make these customers happy by, in their case, making a longer, sturdier stick? And so it's just tips like that that they teach you during the process that kind of open your eyes and really helps you analyze the product a lot better when you're trying to make that decision.
That's awesome because my next question was going to be like, how did you figure out? And I know you guys have, and we're not going to tell everyone what your products are, but you've had a couple different products over the years, right? So how did you decide, or like, I guess as much information as you can give or want to give about like how that process went? How long did the process take?
Yeah, so our first product was kind of by accident. We initially sourced another product that was related to it, that was kind of inexpensive. It was a product that you could buy in bulk for like just over $1, and they would sell for like $12 to $13. Um, and then from that initial product, we started looking at other related products. Like, well, if a customer is going to buy this, most of them are probably going to be looking for these also. And then, yeah, that was just kind of dumb luck, honestly. And so we started with the other products, and they took off. And our first month, I remember telling Liz, we were hoping for like 6 grand in revenue, and we hit 16,000 in revenue within like 10 days. And I was like, holy smokes, this is working. Like, that's when it was like, okay, this works. Like, now we know it's just a matter of let's scale it. Let's just keep reinvesting. I stayed with my previous career for a couple of years while we were building this, and then it finally got to a point where I could step away and focus on this full time. And then, yeah, for me, my life's been a 180 from working where I didn't feel like I even had a life anymore. I was getting really depressed, and I was just kind of questioning, like, what am I doing out here? I mean, I'm making good money, but I'm working 21 12-hour days in a row. Like, that's not even, doesn't make sense.
It's
So
unethical, in my opinion. They should not be making people work that much. I used to get
yeah,
so mad.
sometimes I would have to work for 42 days in a row because they would extend I'd be out on the road during a hailstorm, and they're like, we need people out here, so can you extend? And at the time it was like all about money, and so I would. And so all of a sudden it's like I haven't been home for a couple months, haven't seen anybody. Like, this is, so yeah. But yeah, the going back to finding the products, the one was kind of dumb luck. We did start another product that was just kind of, we didn't do a whole lot of research in it, and that, I mean, we can talk about that because we're going to be dissolving it if you want.
The bags?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so we started a clear bag business, where everybody that's going to concerts or anything, everybody had a policy of a clear bag, 12 by 12 by whatever. So we came up with a simple design, because that's something like you can go to a manufacturer and say, okay, you guys make clear bags. We just want one design like this. And actually, one of our friends' moms hand drew this bag of what we wanted it to look like, something with a drawstring and stuff on it. So that was different than what other people had. And that product did actually really well. So it did good and then it kind of like hockey sticked up, like we were doing great. Then logistics ran into an issue, which we will talk about a little bit later as being one of the challenges. And then some miscommunication happened with our supplier where we were wanting a sample we were going to add a second bag. So we were going to offer two now. And like, so to like build our product line. Well, we sent them like 9 grand for a huge order, and they manufactured the sample bag instead of our original bags and sent us those without being tested or anything, and they were crap. Like, we sent them in to sell, and our reviews went down the toilet because people were taking them to festivals and they were just ripping and tearing because they were just really cheap. Yeah, our supplier and us, we don't communicate anymore. They refuse to.
Give us any sort of refund.
Yeah, they didn't refund us and they knew they made the mistake. Like they sent the wrong item, but that's, we didn't have any recourse. I mean, it's not like we're gonna find a lawyer to try to sue them. It's cost effective. But so that company, we're just going to dissolve that, just because a lot of competition came in on those because the Chinese manufacturers themselves were just sending it directly into Amazon. So that is one of the challenge, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is on some of the products, these Chinese manufacturers now understand how Amazon works, almost better than we do. So for them, it's like, well, would they sell us like a wholesale product cost price, or is it better for them to just create their own brand and send it into Amazon and take us out? So there is that. I mean, that's definitely, I would say, again, one of the challenges is that the manufacturers themselves are, coming into Amazon pretty rapidly.
But that product we found because our friend was looking on Google Trends, and this was back when, a lot of schools and the sporting events were transitioning from regular, bags to a clear bag. And he saw that keyword was trending. And he's like, well, why don't we get into clear bags? And when we looked on Amazon and looked on Jungle Scout, there was like nothing on there. So that was like the perfect product if we could get in early, which we did. And that particular bag, the original one, because it was drawstring, so it was easier for people to open up and access, and it was had comfy straps compared to what was out there. And that one had really good reviews, had really good sales rank until we got the order that was the wrong bag. So
the problem with it too is the wrong bag had our original SKU on it. So it's not like we could have created a second product. Like, this was all tied to that SKU, which is all your reviews, everything is tied to that. And so we took a gamble. We're like, we'll just send these in,
change the pictures,
change the photos, and yeah, it backfired, unfortunately, because the other, like, the logistics issue, one problem that you have with private label is when you put a down payment, they then will start to manufacture your product. Well, that can take 30 to 40 days, sometimes longer, depending on what the product is and how many you're ordering. And so if that, takes 6 weeks, for example, and then it gets put on a boat and ships to LA in 6 weeks, and then it takes another 2 to 3 weeks to even get to Amazon, or sometimes even 2 weeks to check in in LA at the port, because they're inundated with, so much product. So, I mean, you can be 4 months, by the time you've made your initial payment before you even see that product get into Amazon. So that's definitely, I would say, the biggest challenge in starting is logistics. Obviously, finding the product, but once you're comfortable, you've found a product, you're confident that you can, not really disrupt the market as much as, get into that market. And we just focus on how can we improve the product for the customer. I mean, that's our biggest thing, is we don't want to just be another one on the shelf. We want to be a little better and, put on your bullet points why it's better and all that. So for like our bags, for example, they had the comfier thick straps, they had a drawstring, and people really loved them. We specifically asked for thicker gauge plastic when those were made. So those were like 5 or 6 mil, I think, versus the ones they sent us. I mean, were just like a really
they're awful,
cheap cheaply made product, and we could tell instantly, right? When we were like, okay, we got all of our product, we opened it up, we're like, oh no, this isn't the same thing. And we were like, oh, these are the sample bag we were asking, but that's the problem with communication sometimes also is, some of the Chinese manufacturers speak pretty good English and some really just don't speak that good of English. So it's can be a challenge to communicate, which can delay the process too. Like when I was first getting started back in 2016, um, and on Jungle Scout, then I would go to Alibaba to talk with manufacturers. Well, they're complete opposite time as we are. So I'd be jumping on the computer at like 10, 11 at night, and sometimes be chatting with them till 3, 4 in the morning. Before I'd be like, crap, I got to get to bed and work another 12 hours tomorrow. So it was, it's a lot of work initially.
Well, you kind of brought it up, but I was going to ask you, where are you looking? I was like, is it Alibaba, or are there other, not that you need to give them if there are other, or are there other places that you're looking?
Alibaba primarily. There was another one. Let me try to.
Made in China is one.
Yeah, made in China, Alibaba. There's those, and like Alibaba will get you manufacturers outside of China also. They have like India and other places you can search, like if you're getting into clothing or any of those. Um, we were at one point looking to move getting our products manufactured in China to have them being manufactured in Mexico. And there is a software out there to find Mexican manufacturers, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. I can definitely send it to you after this so you can provide it to your listeners. But um, so like our idea was, okay, we're a big problem is the length of time it's taken to manufacture, then it gets put on a ship, and then we're waiting for it at the port. And so if we can get them made in Mexico, I mean, we're in Arizona, they can get thrown on a truck and driven across the border, and we could save all this time. So we went through a process of looking to do that, and we actually like hired
A
a
sourcing agent.
sourcing agent that was down in Mexico and was like, here's what we're manufacturing. We need, we're trying to get these made here in Mexico. And it was a process that took several weeks, and then we found out like they would have to order all the products from China to ship them to Mexico and then have them built in Mexico. And it's like, well, that doesn't save us any time or make any sense. So never mind.
And their prices were way higher. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
they
why a
couldn't
lot
even
of people,
touch the manufacturing
yeah,
price.
people use China because it is cheaper. What we would uh, pay to get it manufactured in China was going to be almost triple in Mexico.
Yeah, and even in the US it was like 10x to have it manufactured. And I mean, there's a lot of people that have this, assumption that all the products coming out of China are not that good of quality. And the reality is, I mean, their manufacturing plants are state of the art. I mean, obviously they've got a lot of them. I wouldn't want to live in some of those cities with all the pollution and stuff. And that's the other thing is people are like, well, I only want to buy US made stuff. And it's like, well, to make a lot of these different type of products, the factories that you have to produce like the plastics and the rubbers and all that stuff, it's not that desirable to be around. So, um, but that said, I mean, manufacturing, getting the products in China for us have been really the only option as far as cost and pricing. Again, we did look at it, so we can try to save time, but it just wasn't going to save us any time to have it try to be made in Mexico, and it was going to be a lot more expensive.
How much of a capital did you have to set aside when you first started getting into it? Or should someone need to set aside?
Yeah, it's, I think probably the most popular question. Like when we were in the group, when we first took the course and everything, like everybody was like, well, how much do I need to start? How much do I need to start? And, you'd have some people say $1,000 and some say 10,000, and the reality is, it's going to vary for everybody. For us specifically, our first order was like 8,000 bucks. And again, I was telling, like, remember I was saying how we were hoping to have like 6 grand in revenue and try to recoup, because at the time before Amazon had advertising and their fee structures were a little different, our margins were close to like 40, 45%. And right now they're closer to 20. just because once Amazon opened their advertising, then they kind of force you to use that route to get in front of their customers. Um, and it can be a big chunk of change if you don't know what you're doing. Thankfully, one of our partners is very good with those types of analytics and PPC. That's kind of a specialty. So he's been able to take that off of our plates and kind of run it, which has been nice. But so we started with like $8,000, but we also ran into problems where we sold the product very quickly, and then now we needed money to do another big order. And so that's something that I would say that your listeners need to think about, is not just your initial investment, but if your product does well, which we all hope they will, you're going to have money to order that product again. Otherwise, you're going to run out of stock, and then your sales rank dips and goes down. And I mean, we still kind of struggle with it after doing it for 5 years because we've got almost 30 SKUs. And so we'll have a few run out and we'll have them on order. And like, for example, recently they had a typhoon over in China, and that shut down the factories for a couple of weeks. And then there was all this mess to clean up, and a lot of the employees couldn't get to work. And so we were anticipating having, I mean, it was almost an $80,000 order land already into Amazon, and it's not even shipped yet. Like, it's supposed to be shipping any day, but it's like, that's going to be a good 6 to 8 week delay that we weren't anticipating on a very large order with a lot of SKUs. So we're going to have some products that just run out of inventory, and yeah, their sales ranks are going to continue just to dip until we get them back. And then it's the name of the game of.
And then you have to run PPC, so you got to spend money on ads. But going back to that question, I mean, you have to really think you're going to order in bulk. So let's say you find a product that's $5 to manufacture, and you're going to buy 500 units. So that's $2,500. Plus you have to pay for shipping. You also have to make sure you have packaging. You need a logo.
Which a logo is not that much. I mean, you can find a designer on Fiverr or, Upwork, or now with AI, you can, type in a prompt and have them spit out different logo ideas. But yeah, like packaging is a good example too, because I mean, the boxes or whatever you're using to package that product in is just added cost. And usually when you're dealing with your manufacturer, when you are picking a product, you're going to figure those prices out, before you pull the trigger on the product. But it's just something to keep in mind with budgeting everything as well. The big thing is having that money for your next reorder.
Did your manufacturer also do the packaging? Like whoever makes your products also doing the packaging? Is it two different?
It's two different. So, but they so they have like packaging suppliers that they deal with on a regular basis. So we just sent them a design and said, okay, this is the design we want on the package. And then they send it to that packaging company, and they kind of did it all.
Yeah, it's a plastic bag with just the print on it, like what the product is, the size, whatever. But yeah, going back to that, then once it gets into Amazon, it starts selling. I mean, you have to run PPC. You have to make sure you have really good photos. That's really important. And now they allow video. But then once you start selling, you're going to have to then put in a reorder. So that's why we always say, I would say closer to $10,000, because even if you're only spending, let's say
I was gonna say, but don't spend that whole 10 on, 10 grand worth of initial product.
Right.
Maybe spend 5 on initial product, get it over here, get it in, get proof that it's working, and then, fire off that next order pretty quickly. I mean, the biggest reason people would or will fail is if they start to get negative reviews right away. Because if you start to get negative reviews on your product right away, you're next to impossible to recover from that. Because a lot of people, when they're searching for products on Amazon, will sort by reviews. They won't even, if it's under a 4, they're not even going to consider it. So like our clear bag, for example, we were at like a 4.6,
almost a 4.8, and now we're a 4.1.
Which that has made a significant difference just to go to a 4.1. But we're to the point now, it's like, well, we don't even really feel comfortable selling these to customers because people are taking them to the concerts and having them fall apart. Like, we don't want that experience for anybody. So we're probably just going to pull them all, from Amazon and
Go through them one by one because I guess it's not all of them. I guess on the back, the stitching isn't lined up. So when you put a lot of stuff in it, it's
yeah.
ripping it. And so then that's how they're falling apart.
Yeah, they just weren't completely different quality from our first ones. And I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we dealt with the same manufacturer, which is why it was really frustrating because we had a pretty good relationship going with them. And then all of a sudden they kind of got nasty with us and was like, well, you guys sent us the wrong stuff. And then they just stopped communicating. So it was like, all right, well, never mind. So, but yeah, that was, I mean, our biggest negative experience so far with it. But honestly, we still didn't really lose much money because of the previous bag sales. I think we even came out ahead some, and we've been paying ourselves out of that business some. So
Q4 is here. It is the best time of the year as an Amazon seller, but if you don't know what's going on with your profits, your money, your business, do you really know if that business and product is making any money? This is why I love Sellerboard and why I've partnered with them on the Your Selling podcast. Sellerboard truly is the best way for an Amazon seller to see their true business, how much profit you're making on a product, and better yet, why I love it, it forecasts out your total sales for the month, and you can see by quarter, by month, or by the entire year how much money your items are making you. We all know different things come up in Amazon business, from returns to various Amazon fees. All of it is broken down in Sellerboard because, like I've said, if you don't know your business numbers, you don't know what's going on. And as new small business owners, that's the area that gets fallen behind because we truly don't totally understand it. So why not use this software to fully understand what's going on? Sellerboard is offering my listeners 2 months free, no credit card required. All you got to do is head to yoursellingguide.com/sellerboardprofit and sign up. Again, you just log into your Amazon account in Sellerboard and everything is pulled over, including all your past items you've ever had. Enter in your cost of goods, and finally, you will see the true profit picture of what's going on in your business. Again, try it 2 months free at yoursellingguide.com/sellerboardprofit and really understand your business this Q4. Do you have multiple different registered trademark brands for all your different products, or do you just do everything under one brand? Or what do you recommend if you don't want to answer that specifically?
no, we have a couple. I would recommend just trying to do one. We kind of made that mistake of like naming our product a little too specific to where like the name of our product, like let's say the bags, for example, um, if our name was Clear Choice for that one. So like, but if you do like Clear Choice bags is your trademark, well, then you're really kind of stuck to just doing bags, or bag related stuff, which is okay. But if you trademark just a general name, like,
Well, if we would have just done Clear Choice,
yeah,
that could have been kind of anything
yeah,
versus Clear Choice bags, which was what we, came
right.
up with.
But yeah, so to answer that, I would try to come up with like a generic kind of broad name that you can put all sorts of different products under, and you can be like, oh, this product by such and such. And the reason I say that is to open a store in Amazon, you have to have it trademarked. Like they won't let you create a store to where you can like add video and do different types of marketing unless you have a trademarked brand. So like on our one Amazon account, we have a certain set of products, our original products that we sell. We're adding another brand that's an unrelated product altogether, and we're trademarking that one separate. So we actually have two brands that are now trademarked.
Under the one Amazon account?
Correct. Yeah. The clear bag one, we never even got to the trademarking point because again, we started with I think like 1,000 bags. They went in there. They started kind of slow, and then all of a sudden in the spring, boom, they hit. And like I said, it was like a hockey stick. They just took off, and it was like, crap, we need to order more. And then that took forever. We got one reorder that was correct. Those sold through, and it was that second reorder that they sent us the wrong product and kind of put us in a situation because it's like we have 2,000 of these bags. We just spent a good chunk of money, and now we have to try to figure out how to sell them outside of Amazon because, going back to we just don't really
We're
feel
not the
comfortable
people,
selling them.
yeah. We're not going to sell something that's going to break on somebody.
Yeah, so
Like
we'll have to go through them like Liz said, and if they're missing the stitching, we'll just get rid of them, and if they're
probably
not,
just
then
donate them or
we'll,
something.
try to garage sale them or something. But yeah,
What was the process like? Because you do have a lot of different products. Like, so you started with one, and then, or did you start with a couple right away? Like, how did you phase that out?
we started with a couple.
Well, I can talk about the one that, so since I was a teacher,
Oh yeah, we had another one.
I was looking on Jungle Scout and I was researching like teaching supplies and things like that and trying to figure out like what was something that I know that teachers would want in the classroom that's not being offered on Amazon. And so I created, I mean, it's not anything new, but pocket charts that hang on the back of a door. So I created two of them, one mainly for like preschool and kindergarten with like cards on them so a teacher could just write what time, nap time is or circle time, art class or PE, lunch, snack, things like that. And then I created a behavior chart, pocket chart, because that wasn't on Amazon. And those did pretty good. And then they, of course, got pretty saturated and we just kind of stopped. They just I would say the ROI on those that it just got to the point where it just wasn't making sense anymore. We were not making enough and we wanted to put more effort into like our main brand.
Yeah, on that product actually. So we used Liz in one of the photos on Amazon, and then we were looking on Alibaba, um, and we found her picture on Alibaba.
We're famous.
So like you'll find that too. Like I mean, there are some suppliers that are not that ethical, if you will. So like
And
you
that's the Clear Choice bag supplier too.
right. So we found out we were kind of giving them ideas basically, and then they would create a very similar product to ours and compete with us. And so we don't know if they did that on purpose where they sent us the wrong bags just to like you just don't know because you're not there,
We
direct.
didn't get a good feeling from that
Yeah.
supplier. Like
Yeah.
it just, and I don't even know if they were the supplier or if they were just like a middleman. Like there are like trade companies that you can find on Alibaba. They don't actually manufacture it. They kind of help you find that product.
And for our main product, our supplier actually travels to the US several times a year. So I've met them personally. Liz and I actually drove from Phoenix to Los Angeles just to have lunch with them. And they actually brought us a gift. That's something that they often do also. But just the fact that we made the commitment to drive over there, shake hands, sit down, have lunch, it was huge for our relationship. And we've spent a lot of money with that manufacturer over the last few years. And so, that's the other thing is we have had the one bad experience with the supplier, but outside of that, it's been a very, very positive for us with the different products that we've brought to market. I mean, most of the suppliers, they're focused on sales, for themselves. A lot of them are sales reps that you're dealing with from the factory. Um, it's just the ones that I guess like the type of products that we've had issues with were like the inexpensive products, like the bags and the charts that were being made for like $1 or two, just because they're just plastic and fabric. Those I think are a little bit easier for manufacturers to come in and compete with you because they can just sew the same type of item you requested and send it in versus some hard goods, or if you come out with an actual design of a product, which we've also tried to go that route as well, which was quite the learning experience. Um,
Well, because you want to have in order to protect your product, you have to get a patent,
like a utility patent.
and that's very expensive.
Yeah. So I created a stupid idea with a frisbee and a dog bowl, and we were going to call it Frizz Bowl. And so we went here in Phoenix. There's companies you can go to and say, this is the idea that I have. And they'll do like molds and stuff for you with like 3D printers. And I mean, it wasn't cheap. I think it was a couple grand to have that even done. And we got like a prototype that was working and it was like, okay, we have a prototype. But then like the step from there to actually go, okay, we want this to be made, to have that machine built is like 50, 60 minimum thousand. And that's over in China, not here in the US. And then it's like, then they have to make them, and you hope that the product sells. Otherwise, it's a lot of work and investment up front with a lot of unknown. So we kind of steered away from that. It was a little beyond our business at the time. So we were like, well, we'll just stick with other products that are being made. We will just tweak them to make them better. So that's kind of been what we've done, and has what's worked for us is, and ours is like an evergreen product, something that, people buy often or all the time, not necessarily seasonally. There are some private label sellers that just do seasonal stuff, and they kick butt doing that.
Well, the one that
I mean, we do have one that, yeah, sells
it,
more
it
during the
sells
summer.
better during the summer.
True.
Yeah. So it is a little bit more seasonal, which you do see like, I mean, some people don't like to do the seasonal just because it's only that season. So you don't have that year round data to be like, okay, this is really selling well in this month, or, it's not selling. It's a lot more risk with the seasonal products because
Well, lower competition. I mean, it's all, different data points that you're going to analyze if you're going to go into that. And usually, if seasonal, we have an outbuilding in the back of our property, that's like 40 by 30 roughly. And then we have a shipping container in property also. All of that is private label storage, basically. So how we had initially started, especially since we were on the road, is, and it was recommended by everybody back in the day, is send everything directly into Amazon. That way, it's hands off, and that's where all the eBay people were like, so you're telling me I just have to buy the product, send it to Amazon, that they pick it, pack it, ship it, and just send me money? Like, sign me up. Like, where do I do this? So that, initially we were sending everything into Amazon. And the first year it was like, cool, no big deal. Well, the next year we had built up our inventory, so much so that Q4 we didn't really understand that they increased their fees. So Amazon will charge you a per cubic foot charge for your products being stored in their warehouse. Well, during Q4 it goes from like 69 cents to 235 per cubic foot or something like that. And we got hit with, between 2 months, just over 11,000 in storage fees by Amazon. And we were like, oh crap, that we can't let that happen anymore. So
because then they were slower to sell. So it's not like with RA, OA, where you might only have like one offs, and once they get in, they're going to sell right away. Ours, we were sending in 100 units for one SKU. So that 100 was sitting there, and maybe we only sold 30 a month. So that's what we were getting charged for, is because that stuff wasn't selling fast enough.
yeah,
And we accrued all the
it
storage
was an
fees.
expensive learning lesson.
We've
But
had plenty of them.
yeah, but now it's like, we store our private label products, we get shipped directly to our house. The one that we just talked about that's being delayed right now, we're splitting. So half's going into Amazon, and then half's coming here, just because we're going to be running out of stock with some stuff.
So do they do they label, they have everything on it like ready to go to Amazon for you from China?
Yeah, your supplier, you send them the Amazon SKU, like the sticker that you want put on each bag, and then they put it in boxes and label it with what's inside it and all that. So yeah, and then we send them the stickers for Amazon put on the boxes. So they'll do all of that for you.
Yeah, they're all case packed products. So you'll know, like, if you've got one, maybe the clear bags, we know there's going to be 50 units in the box. They're going to weigh this, the box, we get the measurements and stuff. And then, we just create the shipping plan and then send them the stickers.
That was going to be one of my questions, which I don't even have to ask because you're just answering them all. But do you have it? Because I know when I talked to Liz before, she was telling me how big everything is, and I'm like, that's how big I'm building my shop. It's not going to be big enough. So you have stuff now that you keep, and then you send it in. You do the LTL.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We do LTL. We have 3 pallets in our driveway right now that are going to get picked up today, which they were supposed to get picked up yesterday, and they didn't send a truck with a lift gate. We're like, gosh darn it. Like, we have to call them like every time, and it's the same company.
Because when you're doing an LTL shipment, they don't have a spot to request a lift gate. We have a pallet jack. We don't have a forklift. So we have to have a lift gate in order to get the pallets up and down.
But yeah, they get everything ready for you when you um, order it from the manufacturer. So I mean, you can certainly do it on the road and not have a warehouse and just send it directly into Amazon. I mean, we were doing that and still profitable. Um, it's just you gotta that's the logistics part you really got to pay attention to and understand so you don't get caught with a bunch of stuff in their warehouses during Q4. Um, and so for us, like we'll still be sending stuff in Q4. It's just we're going to wait till stuff gets like, okay, there's 20 units left. Let's fire in another 100 or whatever it is. But we know because of our history, like our sell-through rate and stuff, so we can judge our products a lot better than when you're first starting out. You don't know if they're going to take a month to sell or 6 months or.
Do you have to continue to run PPC, or once it kind of ranks, are you able to turn it off?
Sadly, you kind of always have to run it. I mean, you'll see if you look on or search a product on Amazon, it's their sales rank is just like the Google page rank, right? The popular items are gonna be at the highest listing, and then, I mean, they've got banner ads now. They have sponsored listing. They have all sorts of different placements now for us to pay them for advertising. But you'll see a lot of like the top 5 sellers are still, you'll see them on the promoted listing and then their natural listing almost side by side. So they're still running PPC even though they're getting that natural ranking really high. I mean, you could turn it off, but it you're just gonna lower your sales rank. I mean, it can fluctuate pretty quickly if you're doing high sales volume or you're competing with high sales volume. I mean, some of these products I've researched sell, thousands a day. Like we're not into that category yet. We sell several hundred sometimes daily, but it's not like we're gonna run out of 1,000 products in 5 days type stuff. But those would be, I mean, a lot more difficult to manage once you get up into that super high volume, and it takes, teams of people to
Well, and there are
run it.
so we have business partners, and he runs all the PPC. He's really good with like Google ads and stuff, and he understands that. He's very analytic, which is something I definitely am not. I don't really like numbers, so we're glad that we have him. But there are like companies and services that you can have help you with PPC if that's something that you aren't very familiar with.
Right. That was a decision Liz and I made as far as because they were close friends of ours to begin with, and we were borrowing money from them because after our first order it was like, okay, we just spent 10 grand and I'm like, I want to go all in on this. Like, let's, so we borrowed $50,000, did a huge order, and we were able to pay them off within, I want to say 6 months. And we wanted to do an $80,000. I'm like, let's go even more. And so when talking to them, they were like, "We'll borrow you more money." And I was like, "Would you maybe just be interested in partnering? You guys can bring a lot to the table." That because he had been doing PPC for decades with other companies, and that's kind of what his specialty was in different businesses that he did, among other internet based now stuff that he did, I should
He's
say.
an engineer, so
Yeah.
he like numbers is his thing. He builds spreadsheets that cross my eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
Yeah, where it's kind of like I'm the idea guy is the joke because I'll like come up with these crazy ideas and like my risk tolerance is pretty high, so I'm like, it's money, like let's just throw it at it, and if it, worst case, we'll blow it out at our cost and try to break even. That's kind of my mindset behind everything. And it really is kind of, I mean, if you do your due diligence and searching a product, it's really hard to like just lose your money. Um, we, outside of the one experience that we had with our supplier that we had trusted and there was the error made. I mean, outside of that, we haven't had anything where it was just like, well, money's gone.
we got to go back to getting real jobs.
It was like our failed products are, well, we didn't, we only made 6% on that. Let's not waste our time and energy. Let's go on to the next. Um, so, but with our brand, it's a little different because, we can add SKUs pretty easily just by different lengths of things. So we can, come up with kind of the same product and do it over 5 different times.
Did you have to hire someone to write all your A plus content and take photos and all that too, or did you guys?
So we did hire someone to do photos once, and they did an okay job, but nothing that we couldn't have done. I think you can do a lot of it yourself. I think what people hire out, like the photos and the copy and stuff to be written, um, I don't know. I've heard some good things about that and some negative. Our experience wasn't the best. I mean, I think we spent $900 for product photos, and there were a couple that were, lifestyle photos that, took extra time and effort and everything, but I don't think it was worth the money we
Mm-mm.
spent. I mean, especially now with Amazon allowing you to do videos, like it doesn't have to be like this huge production, commercial type video. Customers just want to see a quick video of why it works for them and how, why they should buy it. So I think a lot of people kind of overthink or overanalyze that type of stuff. Like the copy is one thing. I mean, AI can be used now to do that, where you feed it keywords that you're trying to rank for, and it can come up with a pretty slick review or what word am I looking for?
Bullet point.
Yeah, bullet points or description is what I
Yeah,
was
just
looking for. So it'll come up with a really nice description. It'll come up with bullet points for you. The A plus content, our business partner helped out with that just because he was more familiar. I would have probably hired that out if it was just Liz and I, running everything currently. Because you can get that done for fairly reasonable. I mean, people that know what they're doing in that space can, get it done a heck of a lot quicker than you can. So that's something I would probably consider going to like Upwork or Fiverr and finding a designer for your A plus content. But photos, to me, I think, and but obviously you can hire that out. I mean, there's tons of resources to have those hired out, but for us, I think it's doing them ourselves works just as good.
especially with all the tools. Like we use Canva, they've got the background remover. Our business partner, she has Photoshop, and so it's like we have the tools that we can, get pretty good photos.
Yeah, now with the iPhone where you can just like hold it and it takes the background out of the
Yeah,
thing. That's what I've been doing with my bundles. I've not even been trying to get on a white background or anything. I just take the
sure.
photo and it's working
Yeah,
out pretty good.
Yeah, the big thing is just, utilizing all your photos they offer you. If you've got
fill
12,
the slots.
they give you 12 slots, yeah, fill them all because that just helps with the algorithm and
And name them too. That's another thing people don't realize. So name it with the keywords. That was a trick that we learned with the course that we took. Yeah, so if you have a bundle of lotions, like
yeah, name all your photos that you save with keywords of what you're trying to link.
I need to do that because I'm pretty sure mine are just product 1, product 2,
Yeah,
product 3.
yeah.
yeah,
Just one of those little tips that somebody had given us that, because in that group there was people that used to work for Amazon that did work for Amazon. I mean, because people that work for Amazon are trying to do private label just like everybody, you know. Um, so yeah, we were talking with people that had some inside information, if you will. But I mean, it changes so much. Like the course, I mean, if we went to it now, a lot would be relevant, but a lot would not. I mean, because it's, a 5-year-old information at this point.
well, I'm creating like a shipment. You see how often Amazon on the back end changes what, how everything looks and where stuff is. So yeah, that's another thing with like taking a course is I wouldn't take one unless it's one where somebody is active. They're actually the one selling, and if that information has been updated because that's really important.
I did the beginner course, I think 2 years ago now, and possibly 3. I'm losing track of time, but I did it all. I released it, and a week later, Amazon changed the way that's like the one refresh they've done in years, and they changed the way everything looked. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah. Yeah. We had thought about doing a course at one point, but it was kind of the same. Like there's so many changes you really have to like
It's a lot of work.
to give people the value that they're paying. It is a lot of work.
So, okay, I have 2 questions. What how else have you seen private label people maybe make missteps, either with yours or just in your community, or do things wrong that people should watch out for?
I think the biggest thing is jumping onto a product without doing enough data research. I mean, you have to really, you don't want to just look at a product. Let's say during the summer, you find this product that looks great, it's selling good, but maybe that product, like somebody just launched it. So when you first launch a product, sometimes you pay for the Vine program so that way you get more reviews. Oh, what am I trying to say?
Yeah, well, with product launching, there's a lot of new strategies now because of the competition where sellers will bring a new product to market and sell it at a loss on purpose just to get the reviews. So unless you have the finances to compete with that, that's where Liz is like, you just got to analyze the products, I guess, trying to figure,
Longer.
yeah, a little
Like you
bit
don't
longer over longer data points. Because in that example, if somebody just landed a product into Amazon last month and you see that they just did $20,000 in sales, it might be because they just sold it again at a loss or at a break even. And they call them like, well, just product launches is kind of the term that people are using anymore. Whereas we never use that strategy because we couldn't afford to. Like when our products hit, we're trying to make a profit right away. It wasn't about like just getting it in for long term, which why I like private label and will continue to do it. It's a great long term play. I mean, for me, it's better than the stock market in a sense of we're kind of in control of our own destiny versus stocks can waver, depending on what rich people want to do for that day. Whereas like with private label, you get a product in there, you've got a 1,000 reviews on this thing. It's pretty much going to be on there through the end of Amazon unless you decide to get out of it or sell it. Um, but you start to get a few SKUs like that where it's like, okay, you've got a couple hundred reviews. They're on autopilot in a sense. That's the goal, of course. So the errors, I guess, with people starting out is not analyzing the product long enough to see if these spikes in revenue are people that are just doing product launches or doing like manipulating the system in a sense. So you're gonna want to try to find more consistency than just products that are hot right now, for example. And I think that kind of hurt a couple of our friends that were getting into it. One of when we were first starting to get into it, like the all-time best product people were saying were fidget spinners because some of these fidget spinners when they first came out were selling for like $40-$50, you know and then the market got flooded with them, and then all of a sudden you could get like a 10 pack for $12, and it was the same fidget spinner as somebody just happened to come to market quick. One that I remember looking at, it was called an anglized ruler, but it was basically just a ruler that you could bend and make all sorts of different shapes. So like, for construction. But I remember bringing that to Kevin. I'm like, I think he's like, I've had like 10 other people tell me about this ruler in the last day. Stay away from it. And so he, just because of talking with other people, could recognize like, okay, a lot of people are going in on this. And as you start to get into private label um, purchasing or creating, I should say, you can start to recognize those trendy products pretty quickly.
you don't
I'm
want to follow the fad like the fidget spinners,
Yeah, if it looks like it's something that could be like an as seen on TV product, where it's like, oh, that's pretty clever, never thought of it. Everybody's going to be trying to come into that because nobody owned the patent on this fidget spinner. It was just a trendy fad at the time. But because of the cost and it was super small, so for them to ship it and the fees were really low, like the profit margins were insane on those things. But yeah, I mean, analyzing products is a big error, and then just understanding logistics and the finances behind creating a long-term brand and how that works.
I would also say with looking at products is not trying to find the same, like you want to change something about it. So I remember we were looking at meat thawing trays. It's just like a rectangular tray and you put a
You
steak on
put a steak
there.
on it, it's supposed to thaw out like
So that had really good numbers when I was doing the research, but there was only a few ways that we could make it different. Like how else? The only way we could do is put like
different color maybe.
different
Like
color silicone on the corners. I mean, there was just only so many ways to make it different. And then also, by the time we got the sample, which you're going to want to do, you want to get samples of those items from the suppliers and test the quality before you place an order. Then I rechecked it and it was so saturated.
yeah,
So
so
you have
the
that.
price had dipped, you know, a large percentage by the time we got our samples and we're thinking about pulling the trigger. Somebody else, like five other people, had already started thawing or tray thawing businesses, and yeah, it just saturated the market really quickly. And like to Liz's point, we're looking at it as like, well, what can we do to this tray to make it different or to give perceived value to these customers of why ours is better and why you need to buy ours instead of the next person's. And there really wasn't any way to do that. You know, a meat thawing tray is a meat thawing tray. And so one of the people in the group, Canadian guy, I can't remember his name off the
I
top of
think
my
that
head.
was Hugh.
Yeah, Hugh. He went into that specific. He's like, yeah, I tried meat thawing trays, and by the time his landed, you know, what he was anticipating selling the product maybe at $29.99 or whatever that number was, had dipped all the way down to like $17.99. And that's the other thing. Manufacturers in China, their margins, if they can make 3 to 4%, they're fine with that, you know. Whereas our business model, that isn't going to fly because we're not going to float $80,000 on a 4% margin. You know what I mean? So, but they can afford to do that. The manufacturers can. So, I mean, there's definitely some challenges in getting into private label. There's no question about it. Otherwise, you know, everybody would do it. It's definitely not a get rich quick like, you know, some people I think assumed from the get go. And even myself, you know, from the get go when I'm watching the videos and then we get the product and we send it in and it's turning over. I'm like, this is like a no brainer. Like we can just do this like all day, every day. Um, but then we did have a couple products that, like the bags, that we had a hiccup with, and yeah, we just try to be realistic with people so they don't like, you know, so if they do have a problem or if they fail, they understand why, I guess.
I think we all know there's like a lot of different risks in anything, so it's going to take a lot of lead time, it's going to take a lot of money on the upfront. But what are the good parts of it? Like how has it changed your life? What are the perks? All of that.
I mean, for me, first and foremost is definitely the time I get to spend with Liz, of course. And then we have two dogs that there are kids because we don't have any kids. And it's the friends and the family, the birthdays, the weddings, like the stuff that I didn't get to do from like age 34 to 39 because I was 5 years on the road. Um, I get to do all those now, and we like to go kayaking some mornings. We like to go hiking. We like to, you know, wake up and control our day and not have somebody else control it for us. That's to me, without question, the best part about it for sure is the flexibility of not having to set an alarm clock, you know, and not having to do just various things, which I mean, eBay sellers can appreciate that just the same, the full-time resellers. The big benefit to this is not having to put your boots on the ground to go find product all the time. Once you find a winning product, then it's just managing that product. So that's definitely a huge benefit as well.
Yeah, I was going to say with retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, that is very time consuming to go out and have to find that product. And with private label, there is a lot of effort that goes into it upfront. But once you kind of get to our, position where we're at right now, because we found these products and we've built the brand, it's just finding more SKUs to add. And it's a little easier now because we do have that brand. So we have a focus of like what products we're looking for. And then also being able to ship it into Amazon, doing the still do the FBA, even though we store it on the property. Really, we're just waiting for the orders to come in. When they come in, we sort all the boxes by SKUs, keep them in the outbuilding, and then it's just running the PPC, making sure we're checking that we don't go out of stock. And when we need to ship stuff in, then we just ship it, via the LTL, the pallet, ship those in. But really, I think it's a really good business model because you're building a brand and there's people that can sell their brand down the road. So we might get to a point, and we've talked to some companies that acquire brands on Amazon. We're not quite to the $1 million mark for the year, and that's kind of what they look for. But once we kind of get there, we also have the opportunity. It's an asset. We can sell, the
So,
brand.
yeah.
So that's very attractive for that type of business model where when you're sending in one-offs, it's like, how do you kind of exit if you don't want to do Amazon anymore as RA or OA seller? So private label is just different in that sense. And we look forward to one day, being able to, I think they're going for, what is it, 7 to 10x
Profit.
profit if you want to exit and sell your brand off. So that's I think a huge pro.
Yeah, which we were on track to come close to hitting a mill potentially this year as far as our revenue. But this month with that huge delay in this last order is gonna cause some direct disruption for us over the next 6 to 8 weeks, which I mean, it's not the end of the world. We have other products in there. The business is still running. It's just, some of our really fast and popular sellers um, just sold out faster than we anticipated. Because to Liz's point, at this point, now what we're trying to do is like, okay, let's just make it a goal to add 2 SKUs a quarter, to go from 25 to 27, then to 29. And then, you know, again, it would slowly build it up over time to where it's like, if we have 100 SKUs doing 2 million in sales annually, the potential to sell that to someone is pretty sweet. It's we look at it as almost like uh, owning a third house for us. We have a rental property that we rent out, but like this is definitely going to be part of our retirement, down the road. So
So I know you guys do eBay also, but taking eBay out of it, how many hours a week do you spend on the private label business?
Not much.
not now. I mean, if like our business partner, he definitely logs in and does PPC. Probably spends, I would say, maybe 20-30 minutes daily going through that, making sure the campaigns are making money and taking out the ones that aren't. But he's pretty proficient with it. Like I say, he's been doing it a long time. So somebody first starting out, you might spend a little bit more time with your PPC, one learning how to do it and then learning how to analyze it and improve it. But Amazon also has like employees like on Seller Central, it'll be like click here and get a phone call with one of our PPC reps and they'll kind of help you through it. Our partner though has said usually the stuff that they recommend is usually kind of in their favor. Some of the recommendations they've given him didn't really seem to improve us as much as it maybe them. But to answer that question, I mean, once you got the private label product in the business, I mean, you can easily get away with 1 hour a day behind your computer, running the
For us, it's
business.
just checking emails. I mean, we also sell on our own website, eBay, Walmart, those private label products. So it's really just fulfilling any orders that would be FBM.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we might go out of stock, but still have the stock here on our property. So then, everything's also in their FBM and FBA. So if we do have a merchant order where you have to fulfill it,
Which
but
that's one is fulfilled by Amazon. So you send the product into them. Amazon takes care of everything. If it runs out of inventory there, FBM is fulfilled by merchant. So if somebody can still buy the product, but Liz and I will have to package it and ship it.
yeah, I'd say we maybe spend about maybe an hour a day.
You know, doing that.
But it took a while for us to get to this point, and that's kind of, I mean, we want the flexibility, even though we house the product here, we still want the flexibility. If we wanted to, we could take off for a month. I mean, that was kind
And
of
that's
our
our
goal.
goal. I mean, our partners took off a month this year. They were able to go back to the Midwest. We handled everything, not a big deal. And next year we want to leave for at least 2 months and kind of do the same. And the only thing we're going to do is just shut off our eBay. That's going to be put on long-term vacation, and then anything that would have to be shipped from here, um, they would have to do it. Which we're going to try to set everything up to where there isn't going to be any inventory issues. So we're going to kind of load Amazon up next
Before we
summer,
take off.
which which we could have. I mean, some of those SKUs that we sold out of quickly are ones that we had just brought to market this year. So that's exciting for us, even though it's like crap, we're out of inventory. It's like, well, we just brought that SKU, we put 1,000 in Amazon, and they're gone. And now we have like 100 reviews on this product. Because to Liz's point, Amazon does offer, it's called Vine, V-I-N-E, where you can put a product in that program and people get sent that product to buy, and then
Influencers and
they're like
review.
incentivized. I don't know if they get a discount or what,
I
but
think they
then
get it for free.
and then they leave reviews. Because when we first started, that was kind of like the dirty part of the game was reviews and the manipulation of reviews. People were going on other people's site or products and just leaving awful reviews without ever even buying it. And it's like, so Amazon's improved that. I mean, they've come a long way in trying to prevent review manipulation. Obviously, it still happens. I mean, even when we first started, was like, oh, we'll have our friends buy our product and leave a review. And it was like, do not do that, because if you're Facebook friends with them, they know that, like, and they do. And it's, they've got all the back end stuff to where they know people that are leaving reviews are tied to you somehow. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's what I've always told people, that like new sellers, because they don't like that they don't have a review as a seller, not as a product. And I'm like, well, you can kind of go around it if you want to, but you're really risking it because they know all.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
will know.
they know all. And it's just not worth it in the long
No,
run. I mean, to get your account suspended, for trying to
beat the
buck the
system.
system,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, but yeah, once you get the products in, you've got reviews rolling. It's
I mean, you
it's a
can,
fun business, really.
yeah. I enjoy it. I mean, we could essentially be hands off and maybe use like a third party, what do they call them, 3PL, third party logistic
Hmm.
company, or a warehouse that we would have them do all the work. So you can get it to where you can automate everything, which I think is nice, and then kind of be hands off at that point.
Yeah, or just hire employees, which I mean, we haven't got to that point yet where that's needed. Um, I mean, we could honestly ramp this up to that level, but we're kind of cruising where we're at and comfortable with just adding a product here and there, and keeping our cash flow positive. I mean, worst case for us right now, if like we just sold out of all of the product that we have, we would still have made a lot of money from our initial investment into Amazon. So, you know, it definitely can work. If your listeners are thinking about doing private label, they can contact us. We're happy to answer any questions direct. As you mentioned, we're the freeway flippers, so we can easily be contacted that way. But I mean, we're honest and upfront with people as far as, what challenges there are. If they bring product ideas to us, we'll tell them if we think it's a good idea or why it's not. That was a big thing back too. A lot of people did, as we talked about, share product, and once we got in the group, it was easier to be like, well, this is what we're doing, and people would be like, oh, well, that's cool, that makes sense. I never even thought to do that. And we haven't had any negative response or had anybody kind of try to tear our brand down or anything, thankfully. Um, but that is a risk when you're on the internet kind of sharing everything. But we're easily reachable. And like I said, if your listeners have any questions, we'd be happy. Mhm.
Nice. So you're the freeway flippers and you have YouTube, Instagram. Is that your mains, or do you have?
We have Facebook. We don't really utilize Facebook though.
Yeah, mainly just Instagram and YouTube, and it's mainly just Liz, to be honest with you. I go through spurts where I'm like, all right, let's do this social stuff and let's do videos, and then we'll get to doing it, and I'm like, I'm gonna go go do something else right now. But
I
yeah, I'm trying to get there because I mean we've been monetized. Liz has done a lot of work for Freeway Flippers and has done a great job. And
Well, we like to share our experiences doing, I mean, everything, our travels, selling on eBay, selling on Amazon, just sharing it
I like doing stuff like this. I told her, I'm like, I like doing interviews and like, getting to know people and hear their experiences versus just kind of being a talking head on YouTube. And we found too that like our videos that are us like going through Goodwill and kind of voicing over those videos and taking people through the experience versus just sitting there talking get a better response.
Yeah.
Ones, and even for myself, if I'm watching YouTube video of somebody just standing there talking, it's hard to keep your interest, even if it's a subject you're trying to learn. It's easier even if they're down in the corner or whatever and kind of walking you through. That keeps me more engaged. So it's just
which we need to do more of on our channel, like
yeah,
to show just kind of the process of even using Jungle Scout. Like, how does it work? What
right.
does it look like? Like, there's so many features that they have now. They even have a supplier database where you can search through and find suppliers even through them. So
yeah, one of our videos a couple months ago was actually us announcing like, oh, we're gonna start this new thing where we're gonna take you through the process of finding a private label product. And that was the only video I think they posted so far.
But you're going to.
Yeah, so the idea is there. It's just, yeah.
So
well, now that you put it out there, now we
happen.
have to do it.
This comes out on September 20th, so you have some time.
Perfect.
Well, thank you guys so much for just answering. Literally, I was about to ask, where can they find you? And you're like, and you can find us at the Freeway. You asked all the questions for me, so I appreciate it. And I got to learn a lot. So thank you guys so much for coming on and explaining a little more about how private label works.
For sure.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can follow Liz and Casey at Freeway Flippers on Instagram, Facebook, and watch their videos on YouTube. Go over there and message them like, hey, I want more private label content on YouTube. Give them a little nudge. They also sell on eBay. So there's tons of eBay thrifting that you can find on YouTube and on Instagram. So definitely give them a follow. They are an open book, much like me. If you have a question, they are more than happy to give you the answers that they have from their own experience. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until next week, happy sourcing.